Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today's Webcast, which is the third episode of a series that will introduce you to the new functionalities of Pure Variance 5.0. And today's topic is Pure Variance partial configuration. And my name is Yang Li, and I will be your moderator today. Our presenter is Robert Hallebrand. Robert Hallebrand is a senior field application engineer at Pure Systems. In presentations, webinars, training, and workshops, he shares his knowledge about systematic reuse of engineering assets with customers of various domains. He helps them with their challenges in efficiently reusing engineering assets and also make the transitions from project-oriented development towards feature model-based product line engineering with Pure Variance. Next page, please. Here is a quick overview of the upcoming webcast. Today, we will start on Pure Variance partial configuration in Pure Variance 5.0. And the following episodes cover other new capabilities and provide detailed information about them. Next, please. So you can find an overview of all upcoming webcasts on our website. You can get a link here and you can register. Additionally, all webcasts will be recorded and uploaded to the Pure Systems YouTube channel. If you have some questions, you can post them at any time in the chat system. Only our webcast team will be able to see your questions. So we will collect your questions and answer them in a Q&A session at the end of this webcast. If there are open questions left after this Q&A session, we will contact you after the webcast to follow up. And now, I will hand over to Robert.
Thank you, Yang. And yes, I want to start with today's topic, which is partial configurations. So first, let's have a look at what the concept is behind partial configurations. What's the idea? What does it actually mean? So if you're a Pure Variance user, you know that typically we work with feature models and so-called 150% reusable assets, which are connected with their variable parts to the features of the feature model. And usually, based on such a feature model, you make selections in the variant model for a specific variant to derive the 100% variant-specific assets. And well, that's still possible, but we now also have the partial configuration in Pure Variance 5.0 that allows you to instead instantly deriving the 100% assets from your 150% assets to instead have in between steps, so to stepwise derive maybe a sub-product line like 100%, let's call it like this here, of engineering assets out of your 150. Treat this as its own product line, and here make actual variant configurations to get to the 100%. And today we will have a closer look at how this is actually done within Pure Variance. So we will start with our Pure Variance Carlite example and start with a normal variant model. So I will just open the baseline VDM model here. And we have a closer look at it. So you see some features in here have been already selected. So let's wait until the model is extended a little bit more. For example, you see we have as beam configuration halogen already selected for high beam and low beam. And now as a preparation for taking this model as an input for a whole sub-product line, we want also to explicitly exclude certain features that shall not be part of that sub-product line. So you see here, I'm explicitly excluding dynamic high beam adjustment, separate daytime running lights, which means also its children are no longer selectable, automatic light, automatic high-low beam. But also interesting, maybe I'm leaving some decisions open, like fog light is neither selected nor excluded. And the same way, there's no region selected at the moment, which means according to the usual evaluation of Pure Variance, this is an error, yeah, right? So if I, below a mandatory feature, if I have there OR features and none of them is selected, pure variance will typically ask me to select at least one of these features. So, but actually I want pure variance to interpret this model differently now, as it is supposed a starting point for a whole sub-product line that offers all of these decisions for the actual variance, so that in each variant you then can finally decide whether one of these markets is part of the variant, but doesn't include the features that are excluded here, and already has the pre-selected halogen features preset and doesn't allow to switch to xenon. So how can I do this easily? Well, now we come to the new part, to the partial configuration mode. I can decide that a variant model shall count as a partial configuration in its properties. So let's see how this is done. I close my baseline variant model, and now I right-click this variant model and go to its properties. In the properties, I now have a new area called configuration mode, and you can see by default we had in the past only the full configuration. Now you can also switch to partial configuration, meaning pure variance will now treat this variant model differently during evaluation. In the model view here on the left side, you see partial configuration variant description models show up with this small P decorator on the upper left side of the VDM icon to indicate that this VDM is in partial configuration mode. Let's open it again to see how the pure variance evaluator is evaluating this partial configuration variant now in a different way. So if we open the same VDM again that we had a look at earlier, you see, even though we didn't select any OR feature down here, there is no error message telling us that we have to select at least one. As now pure variance understands this, you really mean to leave this decision open and interprets these unselected features not as they will be not part of the variant, but as they will be available for future variants that are based on this variant if we continue now with our partial configuration setup. So based on this partially configured variant model, we can now also trigger a partial transformation to generate out of the 150% solution assets that are connected to our feature model, a 120% set of solution assets. And I will show this as an example with our DORS 9 integration. So here in DORS, I have some modules which represent my 150% requirements and test cases, and they are mapped to my 150% feature model. And I'm now taking these as an input to generate into this variance folder down here my 120% requirements modules for this baseline partially configured variant. So I trigger a DORS transformation as usual, and as we have marked this variant as partial configuration, pure variance is treating it differently during the transformation. So if I open the generated requirements module, then you will see indeed the transformation did reduce my superset of requirements, but it did not remove all the variation points. It only removed those requirements that can, according to your partial configuration, never become part of any final variant that is based on this partial configuration. But some requirements that are connected to features that we have not excluded but just not selected in the partial configuration, they are still in. For example, we didn't select the feature fog light that is controlling the existence of this fog light chapter, but the chapter nevertheless is still there. Still later on you could still select that feature in an actual variant that you want to configure based on that partial configuration. So you see here, compared to the left side where we see the 150% requirements, the 120% ones have been reduced, but some variation points are left in on purpose to then resolve them in the next step. For example, you also see that we didn't finish the calculations yet that we have in the requirements text. So as the attribute values could still change later on when we continue our partial configuration to a full configuration. So now, how do I actually go on? How can I get to the next step? How can I configure now, based on this 120%, my 100% variance? For that, let's jump back to pure variance. So on pure variance side, I can now, based on my partial configuration here, create a new variant project in pure variance. So to do this, I first need to have a look at the VRM, the variant result model, belonging to this VDM. So the VRM basically can be easily created here by pushing one button, and entering where I want to store my VRM model for this variant. What does it contain? Basically, it contains all the features. Usually it would contain all the features that you have selected in a variant, and all the ones you haven't selected would be removed. But in partial configuration mode, it shows you all the features that you have either selected or kept unselected. Only the ones that you have explicitly excluded or that have been automatically excluded as you have selected other features that would contradict with those have been removed. Yeah? So basically you can say you see here a 120% set of features. Yeah? And also if we switch to the family model side, you see a kind of 120% set of requirements that could become part of variants that are based on this 120%. Only the ones that could never become part of such variants have been removed. And to this VRM we now refer when we create a new variant model. So we just say via the menu, new variant model, a variant project or variant server project. We now have to enter a name for our variant project. I call it baselight's subproduct line, as it is a subproduct line for our base variants of our car light systems. And now I select that I want this to be based on a variant result model. And now I can point at this variant result model of my baseline variant. And now pure variance in the next step, when I click on finish, will create this new project for the subproduct line for me. And you see a lot of models popping up now. So basically, based on this VRM, pure variance will for this subproject create the according feature models, which are actually kind of 120% feature models of the feature model that we saw earlier in our 150% project. So you see here, for example, the feature Xenon doesn't show up in that feature model, as we earlier decided this is not part of the subproduct line, as well as all other excluded features. Also, on the solution side, the family models still show that don't show some requirements that are part of our 150% family models. As here in this sub-product line, these requirements cannot become part of a variant and are actually not part of our 120% requirements modules of doors on the door side anymore, as we already partially resolved that. But actually, so there's something left. These family models still point at the 150% modules. So before we can now generate a 100% variance, we first need to fix this. So we want now our family models to point at our 120% modules instead of at the 150% modules. So let's quickly do this. I just remove these family models here that point at the 150% solution assets, and instead now import my family models again, in this case from doors. And here I now point at the 120% that are located here in the variance folder that we have just had a look at earlier. We generated based on the partial configuration. So they will now serve as an input. Okay, and after this, the only thing left, here we just go through the standard import dialogues. We could again decide which attributes will be imported and so on. I just keep this as is. But after this step, what is left is to also add a transformation again to the configuration space of the subproduct line. And then I'm ready to actually configure 100% variance in this subproduct line. So I could either open the already present baseline VDM that is also added and reflects what has been selected in our original baseline variant, or I can add a new variant model that actually reflects a 100% variant. So here I will create a new actual or full variant called baseline Sweden. So, and yes, I can also use inheritance here. And now again, I'm asked, do I want this to be in full or partial configuration mode? This time I want full mode, as I want to end up with an actual clean 100% requirement set for this specific variant. And now Pure Variants knows that this is treated as a full mode variant model. And I start making my feature selections. After that, when I'm done, I can trigger a transformation again. And now Pure Variants is taking my 120% requirements modules as an input, is taking this feature selection as an input for the 120%, and is generating out of this the 100% requirements assets for this variant baseline Sweden. So if I now have a look at the results in DOORS, I can open my baseline Sweden requirements module. You will see it has been even further pruned down. So now it only really contains those requirements that are necessary for baseline Sweden. Let's compare it again to the 120% that we earlier generated that served as input for this last transformation. And you can see now really all the requirements that are connected in this time to features that are not part of the baseline Sweden variant have been removed. If we compare here the 120% to the 100, we see that now fog lights have been removed, for example, as they have not been selected in the VDM model of baseline Sweden, while, for example, hazard warning is left in as we have selected the according feature in the feature model. So to sum it up, what we really saw was generating out of the 150% module, a 120% one that we see here on the left side, out of which we then in the next step generated the 100% one. And to make the story complete, actually you are not limited to 2 steps. You can have an arbitrary amount of in-between steps when you now transform out of a 150% set of assets, a subset of those. So you could also generate a sub-product line like we did now. And out of that, you could have again generated a further pruned down sub-product line that is then in the next step pruned down to variant-specific assets for actual variant. So we added this capability as a core concept to Pure Variants, meaning the intention is to offer support for all of our integrations. In the following slides, I want to show you which integrations are currently actually supported with partial configuration mode. So all the ones that show up here have partial configuration support enabled. Some of them have limitations I have to mention. I quickly want to point this out. So the DOORS Classic integration that we had a look at now can currently not combine partial configuration mode with update mode. So if you are making use of co-evolution concepts for your DOORS Classic assets, you can at a point at time not use partial configurations in combination. Pure Variants will tell you that when you try to trigger a derivation or so a transformation with update mode with partial configuration enabled. So it just will not allow you to do this. But this is in development. So this is an upcoming functionality that we will also support in future, like we do for the other integrations. For Capella and also for other Eclipse modeling framework-based tools, we currently allow the partial configuration, but to be honest, we recommend currently not to make use of it, as there is still some point left, like the EMF integrations. They need a mapping family model as an input, and actually currently for the next step, for the 120%, such a model is not generated. So at the moment, we do not recommend to use the partial configuration mode for Capella or other Eclipse modeling framework-based integrations. But again, there's work going on this. The other integrations you see listed here and on the next slide already support this partial configuration mode. If you have more questions about how this works with a certain integration, feel free to contact us afterwards. So for today, I'm here at the end of what I wanted to show. I want to use this point in time to thank you for attending this webcast, for your attention, and also want to point at our upcoming webcasts. So if you want to know more about how Pure Variance 5.0 works with nested global configurations and OSLC concepts in general, which capabilities we added here, have a look at our webcast next week, or a week later at our webcast about the new ECAD integration for Suken. It's now time, I think, for the Q&A part. So here I want to hand over to Jan. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks for the presentation. And so we got questions here. And so let's say the first question is this feature is mainly used for dealing with optional features enabling after the vehicle build, or it's like 120% model, later 100% will be derived from that.
Yeah, so the second is the case. So really the intention is that you can now derive 120% set of solution assets along with a 120% set of features, right? And treat this as its own product line from which you then can generate 100% in the next step.
Yeah, thank you. And the second question is there a way in Pure Variance to realize this connection from partial derivations full product to 100% variance? And it was like a kind of traceability between these different levels of partial configurations.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question, and I actually I will come back to this. So thank you for this question. I will take this as a follow-up with me.
Okay. We got another question. It's like a whether family model can have parameters.
Yes, so this also supports parametric variability. So if you have attributes in your 150% feature model, you could already fix attributes for the sub-product line, or you could leave them open so that they can later on be set in the sub-product line. Both is possible.
Okay, thank you, Robert. So that's all for today, and thank you all so much for your time, and we are looking forward to seeing you in the next webcast. Bye-bye.